Federal buildings improperly serve a purpose for a number of reasons. First off, they belong to the American people, but a lot of them are where we go to get stuff done. Social Security Administration, maybe you got an EPA violation because you let chromium spill in a creek behind your facilities. Maybe you got to go see, go to Health and Human Services. Maybe you're trying to get a grant so you can do some type of research. Or maybe possibly you are a vet on your way to a VA hospital or facility to get some type of stuff taken care of. A number of things could happen at a VA hospital, facility, federal building, etc. The Willshire Federal Building is located in Los Angeles. It primarily serves the VA. Other U.S. government agencies such as the FBI, U.S. State Department, Bureau of Consumer Affairs, etc., etc., etc. So every now and again, you would imagine that some civilians have to roll on down there and get some stuff done. So if I feel like I just need to get some stuff done, I'm just going to walk there, even if I got to jump a bush or if I have to walk up the sidewalk or if I parallel park somewhere far. Maybe I just want to cut across a field or something like that. I shouldn't have to worry about anything. Is that correct? Oh, wait, there is a lot of stuff where there was a lot of protests and riots going on, at least to the point where the news was covered in 24 hours. It seems like they have packed up their gear and kind of left a little bit, but that still does not mean that we didn't send in the Marines. And one thing I want to talk to you guys about is the slippery slope of using active duty troops. I'm not talking about ready reservists with the National Guard. I'm talking active duty troops to guard federal property and where that can go from there. Here's the thing. Marines received 4 days of crowd control training. I received a lot of training in the Marine Corps. All right. I'm just going to tell you, I received a lot of training in the Marine Corps. So these Marines, 700 Marines were sent to LA. They had to complete 4 days of crowd control training. I don't know what the curriculum. I want to see a slide deck. I mean, can we know what that consisted of? These emphasize the rules of de-escalation, non-lethal force, inherent right of self-defense. And he said that they were going to go under the standard rules of force. I guess that's a standard that we could look up. But 4,000 National Guardsmen only had to do 2 days of crowd training. So we doubled them, dude. But I went through a lot of training in the Marine Corps. One of them was spy rigging, where they hook you up to the bottom of an aircraft. And then they learn how to take you out or insert you into a place where a helo can't land. So spy rigging, pretty relevant Marine Corps function. Also, I had to learn how I went to advanced, I did do advanced swim techniques in the Marine Corps. I didn't do the basics. So I had to do stuff like remove my boots and trousers underwater, tread water for 20 minutes, take my trousers and put them over my head and use those to float. I had to put my boots around my neck. A lot of different stuff in the water. It was some good training, learning how to survive in an oil fire in water and tread water for a long time. You're fully dressed. I swim like a fish. Thank you, Marine Corps. I also learned if one of these vehicles were to crash, this is an MV-22 Bravos or Ospreys. These things fly over water all the time, especially when they're taking soldiers or sailors, or mostly sailors and Marines to shore. They have to fly over water. Well, if you got to fly over water, these things could crash, etc., etc. They've crashed a time or two. So we had to do some type of training where they put you in a fuselage that's similar to an MV-22, and they dump you in and out of water over and over again. And you have to learn how to escape. Sometimes while you can't see, and sometimes your respirator is ripped out of your mouth by these scuba instructors that are dickheads. You can't really see them in this shot. Let me move it over so you can see a little bit. Those scuba instructors in the water there, their job is to kind of get on your nerves on purpose to put you under stress. A lot of different training. I even learned how to get vehicles unstuck because we're Marines and we do stupid stuff. So here in Morocco, we hit the beaches and we drove Humvees onto the beaches, and that was just didn't work out so well. Okay, we had to learn how to get vehicles unstuck, but I never learned how to do anything like this. Oh, there he goes. I want to just look at this again. Look at the very beginning. Look at the very beginning of the video. Look at that. Behind him, there's a little girl there and some sandals. There's a pleasantly plump woman back there holding the water bottles. A couple of females with some caps on, and one female with the leggings and a sling bag. My purpose is that people are still using the federal building. How do you know? I guess this shot is really tight. I'm assuming there will be something that will give us more guidance on where you are and are not supposed to be. I would not like to be the Marine that had to jump over that concrete slab and approach a civilian, because you know why they had to detain a Army veteran? He was wearing AirPods and couldn't hear them. And there they go, just summoning him. He has a rifle sling. I mean, guys putting zip ties. He's wearing AirPods. So listen, I can understand the Rodney King riots of the early 90s. Those were effing crazy. The governor wanted active duty troops there because there was a lot going on. But when you're detaining people because they can't hear you, because they're wearing AirPods, that's the slippery slope that I'm talking about when it comes to SHTF and when it comes to using the military when we may not need them. There's a lot of legal battles going on with Governor Newsom and Donald Trump. I'll let you talk about the politics of that, because they're trying to figure out, should you be using them? Is it violating is it posse comitatus or whatever that act is called? I'm mispronouncing it because that's not the point of this video. The point of this is talking about, first, the normalization of military presence in the streets is not something I'm interested in. I'll let this play out and just let you show how they took this guy in. It seemed like it went relatively smoothly. But the point being is, these are the things that you have to worry about. It's just people are walking by in the background like it's just laissez-faire, like nothing, no big deal, just keeping on going. I don't want military to fall into a civilian role whatsoever. So that's number one. Number two is the escalation of force concerns. This Marine that had to jump this barrier, and now they're taking this guy off and they're going to detain him for a while and they're going to work through that type of stuff. You know, it's just, he jumped over because a civilian didn't hear what he said. But this is a weird situation because this was a young 27-year-old vet that they took into custody. But what if it were a 59, 69, 79-year-old vet who had very, very hard of hearing and he was on his way to the VA hospital? I'm just nervous that the normalization process when it comes to the military, I'm not the biggest fan of it, because that could have been my grandfather, who is in his 80s, who does venture to the VA, who uses a flip phone and just follows that thing religiously. And if it were to take him across a bed of flowers, he would stop himself. But if it would take him to a concrete path and he thought it was the correct way to go, he would go that way. And now he's being approached by a 20-something-year-old Marine who has an M4 that's slung crossbody style, who has a helmet on. He's wearing the entire SAPI plates. He has a plate carrier. He has the gloves on. He's wearing freaking knee braces, everything, all this type of stuff. You're just like, what did I do wrong? That's something that's concerning for me as well. Military training is different than civilian training. We did 4 days of civilian training, and that was my emphasis for the type of training I went through in the Marine Corps. Those were just a snippet because we went through a lot. If you're a vet, comment down below the type of trainings you went through and how none of them had to do with civilian de-escalation training. And if you think 4 days was enough to just snip that in the butt, I would love to know with some of your comments down below. Public perception and trust is a big one as well. We get used to it, the escalation of force, but then we get that public perception. I don't know if we want to look like the North Koreans, the Russians, the Chinese of the world, where military is on our street. It can erode trust. It also can chip away at the how we perceive military members. I hold active duty military in very high regard. I'm a vet, but if you're still actively doing it, there is a higher than likely chance than me that you could give your life in service to this country because you're still active duty. Okay, so it chips away at how we hold active duty members. And I think that's a very big deal between the government and civilians, and then potential of misuse. You know, we're going to have 500 National Guardsmen who are being trained on how to go with ICE when they go conduct raids. Now, when ICE goes and does these raids, it's going to be the job of the guardsmen to keep ICE agents safe, and the ICE is still supposed to do the raids. But it's such a slippery slope. Here is the vet's comments when he got arrested and what he thinks.
Basically complied to everything they were saying, and it's just we're at the worst situation where people are becoming more aggressive with what's going on. Became a citizen actually through the military. I was combat engineer in the military, and that was basically why I came here for the VA. That's it.
So how do you feel about after what happened to you today?
Nothing wrong. Like, just
And he has nothing wrong with it because he does say that they were just doing their job. I can agree with that. I think I would have the same sentiments as he. He's a lot, he's about 12 years younger than me. So he's just like, just comply and all this other stuff. But in the back of my head, I'm just like, damn, I was just up here to see the VA. And did I accidentally cross something I wasn't supposed to? I don't know. I'm wearing earbuds. It's LA. I'm rocking out. I'm chilling out. Now I'm being put face down on the ground by a fellow Marine. What the F? Now he's a soldier. He's not a Marine. But nonetheless, so the Trump administration has filed quickly because they don't want a judge to rule on whether or not they're allowed to continue to use National Guardsmen, if whether they're allowed to use the active duty. So Gavin Newsom filed in court for him to be able to take back under his umbrella the National Guard, and also he wanted the Marines removed from LA. And so the judge there did file temporarily. He wants to have everything fully briefed by this week, and they're going to be coming in court on June 20th to completely have a hearing on this. And so basically the Trump administration went to that judge and said, hey, we have a temporary injunction that says we can continue to use active duty. We want you to not hold the hearing this Friday because we want to see if the appeal court rules. And that judge denied it, and he denied it for an interesting reason. He says, indeed, plaintiffs represent that there are already changed facts relating to how National Guard troops are being deployed, how Marines are being utilized, what the current situation is with regard to unrest on the ground, and whether state law enforcement, federal agencies can adequately address such actions. That's a quote from the plaintiffs, i.e. California. What California is saying is, you don't know, judge, how National Guard is being used. You don't know how Marines are being utilized. You don't know that how much civil unrest has gone down significantly. And you don't know that our state law enforcement and our federal agencies that already exist are smoking hot, and they don't need the Ready Reserve to be in here. They don't need Marines, and we don't want to hold this off any longer. We need to do full briefing on June 20th. The Trump administration did not want this to happen. There's a whole bunch of legalese, but the point being is I want this litigated, not because I think one part is right or wrong, but I'm thinking about literally my civil rights and think about my rights, because if happens and then it moves on to the next phase and it moves on to the next phase, what does that mean when it comes to my interaction if there are military troops on the ground here in the DFW area just because it's a rainy day? We want to protect some buildings. I don't know if I like that. Now, I do have some thoughts when it comes to 500 guardsmen going to be used to go with ICE agents. Now, ICE agents are going to be going into more democratic cities, and I got some stories to talk about that because I want you to make sure you guys are protecting yourselves in regards to how to handle if ICE kicks your front door in if you got somebody staying at your house. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can get some more information about that. And I just think that this is a very interesting use case. I'm super duper worried about your critical prep. So we're going to talk about that in a future video as well. If this is your first time stopping by, hit the subscribe button. I would love to have you part of the battalion. If this is not your first time stopping by, well, thank you once again for watching me run my grape. For everyone else, we'll speak soon.